2 followers. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. This one's called Sunday. I've written a description, but it's just more or less. This is a Sunday afternoon in the park, kind of cigar smoking afternoon.
Yeah. Um, wow. We went through like a bunch of stuff that we wanted to talk about before we came out here, but we've had a couple of Bloody Marys,
that it's one of those kind of Sundays.
and we're um, smoking a cigar.
Well, we've got one viewer already, so we might as well start talking about
Hi.
something.
So here we are, Sunday afternoon. It's what? Do you know what time it is
It's probably around.
in San Francisco right
uh,
now? We're in the park, by the way, across the street from our house.
It's probably about 3 o'clock. I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably about 2, 3 in the afternoon right now. And we wanted to just kind of do a recap of the week and a recap of some of the things that we've witnessed over the last week. It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
The McCarthy-like attack against voices of dissent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So, what are some of the main topics then?
InfoWars. Let's talk about Alex
Okay.
Jones
Yeah.
being taken
No,
off
let's
of
just make it clear that neither of us are a fan of Alex Jones or his agenda.
right, but we are a fan of the First Amendment.
Yeah. Well,
So
the ability to speak freely and to say what you want. Now,
do we really need this like up against our mouth like this? That's really like.
no, sir, Mom, just relax.
Can't we just let it hang? You know, I actually don't think it matters. I
No.
don't think it really is like close to us or not.
Okay, it's
It's
not
kind
in
of
your
a
mouth,
distraction.
so okay.
Do you want this?
Sure.
Um, so we are. So I never even knew who Alex Jones was until like 2 years ago, and I was watching this media organization that I'd never heard of before called the Young Turks.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, JP and I were like hardcore NPR listeners, really mainstream. Like we really were drinking the blue Kool-Aid, right? So, and then we realized that we weren't getting enough information about Bernie Sanders that we wanted to get. So 2 years ago, we decided to do some more research and try to figure out who was going to give Bernie Sanders the platform that he deserved, because mainstream media was like focusing on empty podiums,
Yeah.
promising us that Donald Trump was going to come speak to us.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, at the exact same time that was happening, Bernie Sanders was having rallies that were bringing in 40,000, 50,000, 60,000 people, which was the most that the most amount of people that had come out for a Democratic candidate in our nation's history. But mainstream media would prefer to focus on an empty podium.
Right.
So at that point is when we kind of woke up and said, maybe we need to find another source of information. So we found the Young Turks.
Right.
And
I guess it was the Democratic convention.
right. It was some kind of convention. I
Yeah.
forget which one it
And
was.
I think it was the Democratic convention, and we're watching the Young Turks, and,
Right.
and they have their little platform, and Cenk is there, and all of a sudden this drunk blowhard, probably drunker than we are.
I actually thought it was like Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah, it
or
looked like
some
Rush
kind of
Limbaugh.
Rush
Yeah.
Limbaugh wannabe.
Yeah, and this guy comes up and starts picking a
Oh,
fight with them.
sorry.
Julie's
fault.
kicking the tripod.
My fault.
Yeah, don't burn yourself. Yeah. And it turned out it was Alex Jones, and he was picking a fight with Cenk Uygur. And later we realized that it was probably Cenk Uygur who went and picked a fight with Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Went back to his little corner and let Alex Jones come over and be a blowhard and an asshole.
Right.
Right.
Because Cenk Uygur
Is an asshole too.
He's
more
like,
of an asshole, really.
Well, I mean, he's like your typical sort of like liberal. Like, I'm gonna sit here and be quiet and smug and not really like give give a voice to the people, but I'm going to pretend like I'm giving a voice to the people.
Yeah.
And then he waits for someone else to make a fool of himself so that he can find an excuse to attack them. It's
Hmm.
very manipulative. It's
Hmm.
very passive aggressive. It's
Yeah,
very
and
San
that's
Francisco.
yeah, and it's
You
very
know,
California, I
it's
suppose.
very California.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he's not from here. But
Well,
so it's a
yeah,
typical like, and we could see through that right away. Oh,
right.
okay. So he's being a passive aggressive like
Yeah. But
instigator.
at
You
that
know.
moment, we didn't know what was going on. We had no idea, and
Because we'd never heard of the Young Turks before, we
and
were
we had
kind of like siding with them,
right, and we hadn't
you
really
know?
we didn't know about Alex Jones either. Then we started looking him up, and it was like all this like crazy ass,
Yeah,
like
he's really
left
crazy.
right wing, like
Yeah, he's a
crazy
tool.
bullshit.
He's a
Yeah,
tool for the
and he is a
establishment.
tool. Yeah,
Well,
and
just like Cenk is a tool for the
but
establishment
okay,
now,
but the thing
you
is
know?
if he is a tool for the establishment, why is he being taken off of YouTube?
Well, because he has too much power. He has a lot of followers, and he is giving he's following the narrative that doesn't go along with the establishment narrative, you know? So, I don't know. He's just whatever. YouTube is just being YouTube.
YouTube is being YouTube, and we're using the very platform that we're criticizing right now. So yeah, we'll probably eventually get off of it, but we've suddenly had all these followers, and so we want to say hi to all those followers,
Oh man,
whether you're bots or not.
I think I stepped in mud on the way down
Oh
here.
yeah, yeah.
It
We've had a lot of
happens.
rain in the city
It
the last
happens.
the last week. A
Okay,
lot of rain,
so the point
rain that we've
is,
needed, so it's muddy in the park.
is that we don't really like Alex Jones. We don't really agree with pretty much anything he says.
Yeah.
We don't agree with pretty much anything anyone says. We're super skeptical of everything
what we're
we
really
hear.
irritated with
Is the
is
fact that his voice was like taken down.
well, so
You
as
know?
well as other people that we actually follow. So it's the policies
Yeah.
of YouTube that we're having a problem with,
Yeah.
right? And we'll probably move over to BitChute or some other platform. We have an account on Vimeo, but we use that for our art videos, and so we're not going to do these kinds of shit posts, the equivalent of a shit post
That's what we should have called
on
this
Vimeo.
shit
Yeah,
post.
yeah, we should have called it shit post. But Vimeo is for our art videos, and you can go there. You can find us on Book of Hours.
Yeah.
There's a link to it on our site.
So we like the First Amendment more than we like Alex Jones. So hey, Alex, we're really sorry. We're really sorry that corporations out of Silicon Valley seem to have more power
Right.
than than the government
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
the people or the proles.
Yeah. Right.
You
So
know.
yeah, so
Sorry.
it's a weird time. I mean, it's a time of dissent, but it's a time of shutting down voices of dissent.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
our the country has never been more
What
kind
was
of
that?
fucked up since maybe it's probably the shit from the
I think it's like
it's ash.
cigar ash
Yeah.
on your pants.
On my trousers, there's cigar ash.
Cigar ash on your trousers.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we're upset about is that Alex Jones has been shut down.
Well,
Not cool.
yeah.
We,
I'm not upset about it. I'm just
Well,
concerned. I'm concerned.
I'm
Concerned.
concerned.
The
I'm
thing is,
concerned
okay, for me,
about
the First Amendment, right? The First Amendment. Okay, so first of all, from my position, the Constitution is isn't really a valid thing because it was created by people who were in power who intended to stay in power, and they granted us rights that we actually already have.
Right.
So we should all have the right to say what we want to
Right.
say.
It's
We
okay
should
to be
all
an
have
asshole on the internet.
Right.
It really is.
and we should all have the right to gather.
Right.
We should all have the right to meet who we want to meet and
Right,
protest what we want to protest.
And you can say what you want on the internet because words don't hurt. You know what I mean?
That's what you'd think.
So it's okay. So the Constitution was created to garner the votes of the people. It was created by two very wealthy factions who had the same agenda, which was to maintain their wealth, and it was nothing but a land grab.
Right.
So the Constitution, you have to think of it this way: the Constitution was nothing more than like a PR campaign for the rest of us.
Right. So
you know?
so we're
So-
looking at it. We're going back to a revolution that was basically the bourgeois taking over, fighting against the aristocracy.
Right.
You know?
So
So
It's
two
like,
powerful
you have
forces.
the right to speak. Well, no shit, Sherlock. The minute I was like, 6 months old or a year old, and
As soon as I could start talking.
I could form cognitive, development in my brain, and I could put words to thoughts. That's not a right.
It's a natural
That's a
thing.
natural chemical, like organic thing inside of you, and they want to tell you in the Constitution that you have the right to be something that it's insane. It's like,
Yeah.
next thing you
So
know, they're going to add more rules, like, you have the right to breathe. You
yeah.
do. You have the right to breathe. It's
Right.
like, come on, wake up, get smart, start using your brains.
Right.
That's all.
So to have the people who were the landowners to tell us that we had the right to speak only according to their rules,
Right.
right? And that's the problem with the Constitution. And
Yeah,
that's the problem. Yeah.
that is the problem with
But
it. So,
so people are complaining about. There's a lot of people that are out there that are complaining about being taken down off of YouTube, and we agree that's bullshit, right? Because
mm-hmm.
the thing is on one hand, YouTube says, oh well, we're a private company, and we can say who says what according to what we think should be said, and
Right.
they refer to their policies, which are who knows what the fuck, and we're getting a little okay, yeah, it's probably just our connection. um
What happened?
oh, it was like it was stopping a little bit,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I don't think YouTube cares about us because we have less
We
than
have like
200.
2 followers
We
or
have
whatever.
less than 200 followers. Okay, so yeah, and the person who was watching us a moment ago is gone. so
Whatever. Maybe they
so
are.
it's
Maybe they
the, it's
aren't.
the
I don't
sound of
care.
crickets.
It
We're
doesn't.
yelling into the wind.
No, we're not.
But the
Someone.
thing, but
These get like a lot of views.
okay,
Whatever. I don't
so
care.
whatever. But the thing is YouTube is both a private company, but they're also being now considered a utility, right? So a utility is like the telephone, or the postal service, or your water, right?
Gas and energy, like your
Gas and
gas and
energy,
energy
yeah.
bill,
So
your water bill.
your
No,
electricity,
they want to
yeah.
make these things
So
utilities.
this should be
Yeah.
treated like that, and people should just be able to put whatever they want to put out there, right, within reason, I suppose.
Right.
But because like I don't want to see
That's why we need an
people.
internet bill of rights. That's a hashtag that's actually
Is it going around? Yeah.
trending on Twitter right now. Internet bill of rights.
Yeah.
So I think right now when you're in open season, the internet reminds me a lot of like what um, the Wild Wild West was at one point. Where it was just a free for all.
Well,
People were like, you know, robbing stagecoaches and taking
yeah,
over
but at the same time, okay,
colonies.
let's look at it in a different
There
way.
was it was just like total chaos and anarchy, right? That's what the internet is like.
Well, okay, but on the other hand, we both know that anarchy is not chaos.
No, it's like barn building.
Yeah, and
It really
the
is.
internet is a good example of what anarchy is, and that is that it comes down to what we were talking about before we went on live, is mutual aid and direct action,
Barn building.
and barn building, and cooperation,
Right.
and sharing, and see, that's what this whole thing should be about.
Sharing.
Sharing resources, and sharing opinions, and discussing things openly.
Right.
And that's what we have a problem with, people being taken off of YouTube. I don't care if it's Alex Jones. I don't care if it's Debbie Lusignan. They're the opposite of each other. And Lusignan even accused Alex Jones of being a tool, right?
A tool for the establishment.
And
Yeah.
maybe that's true, maybe it's not.
I
don't
would
care.
definitely say that there are like bad actors, that there are agents provocateurs, where people come in and they pretend to be something that they're not in
Right.
order to get a reaction. You get a lot of that in the Antifa movement. I mean,
Well, that's okay. We're just talking about
most
Antifa.
of what you see, if there's some kind of violence going on, like say breaking windows and shit, or like when they lit up the limousine on fire
Yeah.
at the Trump inauguration,
Right.
that was an Antifa.
Well, chances
those were
are-
cops like dressed up like
Right,
Antifa,
exactly, yeah,
trying to
Yeah. Yeah, or
incite some kind of
chances are
reaction.
good. Chances are good that they were cops dressed as in black bloc.
Yeah, those are agents provocateurs. They're not real. They're meant to, because they have to make their quota.
Right. Well, and so we saw videos
Gestapo need
of
to
the
make
same
their quota.
of that same protest where Antifa, Black Bloc tactic folks were helping regular protesters. Like there was one incident of a woman who was I think she wasn't she sprayed, pepper sprayed or something, and she had her child with her,
Yeah.
and the cops were basically ready to abuse both of
Right.
them, and some Antifa folks in black bloc gear came in, took them, protected them from the
Right.
pepper spray,
Right.
got them out of there,
They created their
and
own.
took care of those people.
Yeah. So there's
But
like a whole fucking tactics
right,
that have been going on for like
and the other thing
a
that we saw,
millennia, a couple thousand years, and
right,
people are like, "Ooh, Antifa is modern." No, it's not. You
yeah.
idiots.
Right.
It's been
Well,
going on for
the other thing that we
ages.
saw during that same protest were there was a woman on crutches
Right.
who was being attacked by the police.
So the number one motto of like anarchist rebellion is similar to what they have in the military, which is do no harm and no man left behind.
Yeah.
You fucking help your comrades. So if you find somebody that is like attacking comrades and they look like a comrade, or they're creating like
Or they're being attacked by the authorities.
unnecessary violence is
So the
not
first
anti.
foremost is
So
basically protest, right?
get
We're
that out of your
protesting.
head.
We're protesting the authority, and then,
Yeah.
if necessary, this is called a diversity of tactics. If necessary, then comes the violence. Breaking windows. We don't give a shit about that.
Whatever.
Breaking windows
Those poor windows.
I know it's a demonstration of, this is how we feel about your goddamn corporation.
Right.
We don't care if you're Starbucks or the Bank of America. If you are in a position of
Part of the
holding
problem.
authority
Right.
over people, then we're going to demonstrate against that.
Yeah. So I think that
But we're not going to go out and hurt people deliberately.
no.
Right.
No,
And
because
we're just
people are
voicing
like,
where the
Yeah.
Antifa people are coming from.
yeah, it's like I don't know. And so what people don't understand is there's a massive surge of white supremacist movement here in the Bay Area.
Well, and everywhere.
Massive surge.
And everywhere. We were just looking at Sweden. We were
Yeah,
looking at a video
it's
about
true.
Sweden.
But for the United States, speaking on behalf of the United States, maybe you're not seeing it in your community, but it's here and it's really, really common. There's massive white supremacist groups and Nazi groups that are gaining a lot of power and a lot of influence. A lot of wedge communities are going into these groups because wedge communities want to go where the power is, right?
Yeah.
So, it's like they decided recently to go go protest a socialist, communist, anarchist bookstore in Berkeley.
Right.
It's like, well, you don't see the socialists or the
A
communists.
bunch of MAGA people.
A bunch of MAGA people, Make America Great Again people, decided to go protest like a socialist bookstore. Well, you don't see like the socialist contingent like protesting a Christian conservative bookstore, do you? No, because they don't care.
The only
Like
thing they
that's
go
not
and
their
protest are a bunch of fucking Nazis who are
Right.
saying that we shouldn't
right.
all live together.
Right, who are basically they're
supporting
pro ICE and pro abuse of power and all that.
retrograde and
Yeah.
reactionary policies.
Right. So, fuck those guys. I mean, they have gotten way too powerful here in the Bay Area, and unfortunately, the milquetoast liberals in this town don't seem to get it, but we pay attention because we read It's Going Down, the magazine that seems to focus on, the real issue of that. So, anyway,
All right, let's talk about that little shithead named Hogg.
oh God, I know. Yeah. It's David Hogg. I think everybody at this point agrees that it's not real. I don't know.
Okay,
like
so
I don't know how else.
here's this
But
kid,
it's not real.
here's this kid who's pretending to be a Florida high school student,
Right.
who's not a Florida high school student.
Yeah.
He's graduated already, and he's from I think he's from California.
A spokesperson for mental health. I love it.
All right, let's give some background on that. Tell us what happened.
Well, he sent out a tweet. I forget what the tweet said exactly, but it basically made him like the spokesperson for mental health, which is,
Not really.
and the spokesperson for anti-gun
Well,
legislation.
can you explain what you're talking about, because that's not
I
really
have to
what.
look up the tweet, but I don't. This,
Okay, but
you
it's
know.
the opposite of what you're saying. Okay, so
What?
the
No.
no, he didn't say that he was on the side of mental health.
No,
He
he's
was
this.
saying
He's
that mental health
he said
mentally.
something like, "Can we agree that we need to take the guns out of the mentally ill?" It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, okay, how do you define mentally ill? Who said that you could define mentally ill? You're apparently a teenager. Since when is a teenager like qualified to make that kind of like assessment? And furthermore, when are the police able to make that kind of assessment? Like, what the
So
nobody seems. Everyone's like, yeah, he got 36,000 likes and retweets
right,
on that piece of shit.
and this goes
tweet.
along with Sheriff Israel, who's basically pushing the idea that they should extend a Florida law that means that if you post something on social media or the internet that is, like you're promoting guns or gun violence or anything that's violent or whatever that they deem is not, fit for the internet, that they should be able to come and arrest you on the grounds that you're mentally ill and disappear you, right? And take your rights away from you because they seem to think that you're mentally unfit to be able to make your own decisions and to express your opinions in the in what they call the economy of ideas, or whatever the fuck they call that, and so this kid is basically he's another tool that's basically talking about how the mentally ill are now going to be the targets of government attention, that they're going to start disappearing people who they deem unfit to be able to think for themselves, as they say, or take care of themselves, and that are a potential threat, and they are going to preemptively arrest you for thought crime, for doing something that you haven't done but are thinking out loud, something that they deem as a crime. Right?
Yeah, basically.
I
That's
didn't mean
pretty
to
much
shut
it.
you down, but
No,
I
no, no.
just felt like we were being a little incoherent.
No, we're not. I mean, he put out a tweet that said, "Can we agree that we need to get the guns out of the mentally ill?" It's like,
Right.
it's a loaded statement.
It is
it's
a very
loaded statement,
and
that
it's
is
and
meant
it's
to,
ableism pure and
it's
simple.
it's meant to incite a reaction. Okay, so it's the same kind of statements that you would say, like, "Can we agree to get the guns out of the hands of the black community?" It's like, whoa, 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 whoa! What are you saying?
Right.
Can we agree to get the guns out of people who smoke cigars? Like, seriously. Like, it's just a loaded statement. It's a loaded
cigar.
statement. It's a loaded statement that it just, and what is a child, an alleged child, doing with so much power on the internet? If I had gone online, if I had gone on Twitter and said, "Can we agree to get the guns out of the hands of the Asian community?" I would be shut down and fucking jailed.
Right.
So can we agree to get the guns out of the mentally ill? It's like, no,
And
it's a loaded statement.
it is. And the thing is that this whole thing with, talking about, okay, so on one hand, they're claiming that the shooter was being influenced by the right wing. Okay. On the other hand, they're
Which
saying
they've already
on the other
proved
hand,
to
they're
be false.
right, and on the
Yeah.
other hand, they've made the claim that he
Oh,
was
no,
mentally
no.
ill,
Right.
right? And we're talking about Florida, the recent Florida event, and so they're trying to make it look like one thing, and when that doesn't take effect, they use another excuse to try to basically curtail your rights to do anything, really. So we're not gun people, but we don't really feel like it's in the best interest of everybody to really curtail the rights of individuals to own a firearm.
Yeah. It's really dangerous. It's dangerous rhetoric. It's meant to It's meant to get a reaction out of the public
Hmm.
with no basis in actual legislation. That's all.
Right.
It's all about emotional manipulation. That's
And
it.
this kid
That's it.
Hogg, apparently his family, his father
Both
was
parents.
was in the FBI, or is in the
Yeah.
FBI, or was, I don't know. He he was in high school in L.A., and he wanted to be. He claimed in another video, like from 2 years ago, wanted to be a while he was in L.A., not Florida, but Los Angeles. He claimed he wanted to be like a CNN news person, right? So now he's a spokesperson.
He's been
He's
all over
allegedly
CNN.
right, and allegedly now he's a high school student in Florida. So, we have these people who are basically the so-called crisis actors who are showing up at these so-called crises that are taking place, and they're speaking the rhetoric of the whoever's trying to say uh, what is and what ain't,
Right.
whether it's the state or
Yeah.
the deep state or the FBI, the CIA, Jeff Bezos, or the Fuckerberg, or whoever.
Constitution, and it is, and the Smith-Mundt Act has been suspended and is no longer functioning, then you are legally allowed to propagandize to the citizen. And some people take that as like, okay, so the government is lying to us through the media, but I think that we're being lied to on every
Mm-hmm.
in every facet of life. It's like, why relegate it just to the government? Why not, why not everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Why not have the gun legislation or the anti-gun legislation also lie to us?
Right.
It's and yes, I know that there are a lot of anti-gun lobbyists and a lot of gun lobbyists that that infiltrate Congress, because we know that there's about 30 lobbyists per one congressperson. So that whatever legislation is out there is they're creating a propaganda machine. They're creating a propaganda narrative. So pick your belief system, and whatever it is, they've got a propaganda for it.
Right. And I think that a lot of
It's like,
times, and like with this incident in Florida, you're getting mixed messages, and those mixed messages are being put out there precisely to keep people arguing each other, precisely to keep people distracted and confused, and deliberately confusing the issue with
mm-hmm,
uh, controversial and yet oppositional ideas, so that people really don't know what to think anymore, and they just give up.
right.
I think that's the ultimate goal.
Well, of course, yeah. There's, and it's just, again, if you filter everything through the fact that we're operating under a suspended constitution, and that everybody is allowed to legally lie to the country through whatever means, if you filter everything through that lens, then it kind of gives you um, insight into what the real motivation is. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
you we don't even have functioning elections, and I think at this point a lot of people get that. And so this business of like, you know, let's place this candidate who is advocating for Medicare for all or for anti-gun legislation. Okay, first of all, there's like three different parts of that. First of all, again, we're not operating under a functioning meritocracy or a functioning democracy or even functioning elections. So you've got this person who's out front going, I advocate for Medicare for all. It's like that statement right there is about step 10 in a 1 to 10 process. First thing you have to do is get rid of the think tanks that get together, and they say, how can we create policy to make the people think that we're advocating for Medicare for all, but what we're really doing is we're funneling more money into the insurance industry or into the for-profit medical industry. So the first thing you have to do is step one is go to those think tanks and replace those people with actual people. Okay, so it's like that's step
Or
one.
just abolish them
Or
altogether.
just abolish the think tanks altogether. Exactly. And then, like I said before, we've got about 25 to 30 lobbyists for every one congressperson. So that's like 25 people that are bullying one congressperson that might have the best of intentions, but they can't win when they've got 25 or 30 lobbyists that are attacking them at all times, and those lobbyists represent the agenda of the corporatocracy.
And then
So
you need to get money and corporations
right.
out of the
So
politics.
you're talking like a 10-step process, and then you're out there going, we want free healthcare, we want free education, and we want this and that, like every socialist country has. Yeah, well, every other socially democratic run country, where the Green Party and the Socialist Party and the Communist Parties, where they actually have some power, they don't have like the kind of think tanks that we have. They don't have the kind of like uh, lobbyists and propaganda legislation that we have here. And if they do, it's a lot more controlled. You know what I'm saying? Every country has propaganda, of course, but it's like Americans are like, we want this and we want it yesterday. It's like, dude, you haven't even addressed like step one in this 10-step process, and you want to go to step 10 before you're even willing to like understand like how the government actually works.
Right.
you know
And I think too
it's like
that a lot of people are really unaware
total disconnect.
of the neoliberal policies that have been put into place over the last 50 years, maybe even longer, since World War II, but really have starting to take effect in the last 40 to 50 years. I think the Carter administration was probably the last one that really, you know, did not operate under, like under at least 90% neoliberal policies,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean,
Yeah, it's true.
I have to say, I mean, it's like the first Bush administration, the Reagan administration, the first Bush administration, and especially the Clinton administration, really embraced these neoliberal policies that took away the rights of labor, that took away the rights of poor people, that took away all the things that made living in America what everybody was striving for,
Right.
right?
So can you imagine, like for my entire lifetime, you know, this idea of a free democracy, this idea of meritocracy, for my entire lifetime, that's actually never existed.
Right.
So it's really there's such a weird disconnect here, and it's so when you're living under a suspended constitution, people from the outside looking in might look at me and hear me say this really heavy statement, and they might think, oh my God, people are being thrown out of their houses and thrown into gulags and stuff. No, it's not that. We still have the opportunity to get on our YouTube page and hang out in a park in San Francisco, California, smoke a cigar freely, and bitch about the way the world works. Like, we still have.
It's a very minimal thing because
But we're operating under
mm-hmm.
the understanding that we're living in a suspended constitution.
Right.
You know.
So they can curtail your freedoms. They're just letting us.
It's happened to me. I mean, come on.
Okay, well, we're
Yeah.
we're letting. Let's put it this way: we're living under a situation where the very surface level of freedoms are still available to us. We can still go to the mall. We can still go to the movies.
Yeah,
we
you're
can still
allowed
go
to
out.
be a consumer.
Right, you're allowed to be a consumer, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's getting taken away because what we're finding is the middle class and the entire middle is being hollowed out to the
Sure.
point where you've got job and careers that are paying you just above minimum wage, nothing in between, and then careers that give you, seven figures or six or seven
Right.
figures, right?
Like we talked about before.
And we talked about this already.
Yeah.
And yet we're still operating under the premise that, you can go out and pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, or going to college means that
I
you'll
hate
get a
that
good,
term.
I know.
Yeah.
Going to college means that you're going to get a good career.
When really
and-
what it means is that you're a slave. You're a slave to the debt.
Mhm.
And that's another thing that Americans don't have, is the understanding that going to work and punching in and punching out, no matter what you do, no
Mhm.
matter what kind of money you make, is you lose your autonomy. You actually lose your freedom. So wage in America is the equivalent of slavery. So this is why, after my last job, like, I haven't really gone back to work, because if you think about it, it's like if I go on an interview, this is my conversation. So, what can you bring to the table? I tell them my, my background, I tell them my experience, I tell them my education, whatever, and then I follow it up with, if this company wants to hire me, then I want to own a portion of the company, because my time is worth, is totally precious. My time and my autonomy over myself, my body, my energy. I equate my thoughts, the energy that I put into getting up in the morning and going to work. I equate that with a dollar sign. Like, and that's something that Americans don't
Well,
even, like, they can't even grasp, like, the concept of
well,
autonomy
it's not even.
over your energy, your
It's
own energy,
the problem
you
is
know?
that it is just a dollar sign, right? The places that hire you that are not, that are corporations or whatever, they're hiring you for your time equals money kind of situation, as opposed to your creativity, your ability to
Right.
innovate, and your ability to add to what that company actually holds.
So what if the interview process went something like this? Okay, well, we pay, $35 an hour. Okay, well, that's not enough. What I'd like to do is have ownership of your company. So give me, 2.8% ownership of your company, and then maybe we'll talk. So what if, that's what I'm talking about, autonomy. It's like, as long as I'm here working in this
And
environment
putting myself
and
into
putting
this,
myself into,
I want more
and
than just a dollar
I
sign.
want more than just what the going rate is,
Right.
because I'm worth more than the going rate. And that
Well,
is not something that Americans can even begin to grasp.
right.
Like,
And
they don't even
we
understand.
have very few cooperatives out there and co-ownerships
Right.
that exist, and the ones that do, and that are
They're
successful,
very small.
they're small
Yeah.
and they're not that effective, but they're a means of um, allowing workers to have a say in what the company does and how they work, and I think that we wouldn't have such a globalist attitude if corporations were actually run and co-owned by the people who worked in them.
Right.
You know,
So can you imagine if every McDonald's worker that went in, and McDonald's, I think, recently raised the minimum wage to like $11 an hour or something. I
so
don't know,
what?
like across the board. But if every McDonald's worker said, you know what, that's not enough. What I would like is, 1.2% ownership of the McDonald's corporation. Can you imagine what kind of
Or
conversation?
whatever percentage that might
Yeah,
be.
exactly. Like that. Can you imagine how the conversation
Not
would
only the ownership,
completely
but
change and completely put the labor movement on its head?
right. Well,
You know?
not only partial ownership, but autonomy and having a say in how the
And
company
how it's
operates.
run. Exactly. So, like, for instance, you could then say, and I'm basically, what, and I'm not talking out of my ass, because this is the kind of shit that goes on in Germany. When you've got, like, when you've got laborers who are working, say, like, for, let's just say, for BMW. Okay, so the workers, they own a share of that corporation.
Do they?
Then not only that, when they install like solar panels in, like, the skylights of the BMWs, they're able to invest into the solar panel industry. So it's like, and they have a person there to represent, like, I guess you could say, like, a union person there to represent, okay, so if we're going to take an outside company that has a contract with BMW to install these particular solar panels, in the skylights of the BMWs. This is a particular solar panel. The people that install them want a piece of that industry. They want a piece of. So there are so many ways that you could actually have more autonomy over your work and your time and what you represent. The self. I'm getting really philosophical here, but there are other companies, and they usually exist outside of the United States, that do recognize this. And so wage earners, you know, suddenly they're no longer just slaves to whatever the wage happens to be at the moment.
Right. Well, let's bring it
They're
down. Let's bring it down to more local
they have
level.
ownership
Right. Exactly.
of
So
their.
so in San Francisco, there's a number of cooperative companies, and I'll give you a couple examples. There's a company, I don't know the name, I can't remember it, but they are a cooperative and they are house cleaners. Okay, so they go out and they work for people who are working as wage slaves or corporate slaves downtown, and they go in and they clean their house. Okay, that company isn't just owned by one person who collects all the money and then distributes it for, an hourly wage, which is probably pretty low. Okay, it is owned by every single one of the people who work for the company, right? So the people who are scrubbing the toilets are also co-owners of the company. There's another company in the Bay Area, Arismondi Bakeries. They're all over. There's two in San Francisco, and they're in Marin, and there are other places. And again, they're co-owned. So people who are baking the bread, people who are serving you at
They
the
have
counter,
ownership
they have ownership.
of the
And
company.
another one that we really like and we go to a lot is called Rainbow Grocery, and they've been around since the 70s, and it's a cooperative organization, and
Hmm.
all the people that work there, the people who stock groceries, the people who check you out, the people who take care of the books, they're all equal in their ownership, and they have autonomy in how they operate the business and
Right.
what kinds of products they sell, and how they operate in the community.
Right. But that, so what I'm trying to say is that once you start from that premise, then, like, for instance, any outside vendors that come in,
Mm-hmm.
like, say, Arismonde Bakery, you know, they use a service,
Right.
so they then can invest into that
A
service,
service that's more
you know,
yeah, ecological
right. They
or
have complete control, like,
socially, yeah, yeah.
the you know the the boxes that they use to serve the breads and the foods in
Mm-hmm.
comes from a local, you know
Well, they choose
uh,
the organization.
right. They choose the organization, and they it's on a vote, and everybody decides, okay, do we want to use like a local service where their boxes and things are compostable, so we know that we're contributing to,
Or their
you know
recycled fibers or
recycled
whatever.
fiber, so we know that it's ecological and it's safe for the environment? Or do we want to go the cheaper end? And it's all part of a vote, it's all part of a system,
Mm-hmm.
and then they can invest
Well,
into that.
going back to
It's
Rainbow,
just
I've been
like,
shopping there for years, and I remember when they dropped products because of their connection politically or business wise
right,
to a system that was actually hurting the community or hurting the workers or hurting the country or the world at large,
right,
right? And so they drop a product because it may not have been owned before by a larger corporation, but that it then changed up, more recently, and was owned by, say, Budweiser or whoever owns Budweiser now, right?
right.
And, or
So,
it was a company that was operating on its own, and then they ended up getting bought by Nestle Corporation, which is
right,
one of the worst
right,
corporations in the entire world,
right,
and so they dropped that product and stopped carrying it because of that connection.
right. And there's a lot of options out there, so you're not beholden to having some sort of connection or affiliation or business arrangement um, with somebody like Nestle.
Or Amazon. We've talked about this before about dropping your account with Amazon.
Yeah,
What is it about this particular company that makes you have an account before you can even buy anything from them? And in order to get out of that account, you have to go out of your way.
it's not an easy
It's not an
process.
easy process.
Yeah, I did it.
Julie demonstrated it, and it was ridiculous
Yeah,
how hard it was
yeah.
to get rid of
To
her
get rid
account.
of my Amazon
Now,
account.
do you
Yeah,
need to drop your Amazon account? Well,
I think
probably.
so.
You know,
I think so.
maybe not. I still have mine, but I don't order from it.
Right. Well, I think that just showing like a real strong, like, moral, decision. Like, I'm not going to have any affiliation with it. No offense or whatever, but it's
No,
just
no, no.
like,
I mean, I just haven't
I
done it.
I just, no, it's like breaking up with a toxic, in a toxic relationship.
Right.
You don't want to have anything to do with that person. And I don't know. It's, my moral line is pretty strong. It's like, I don't want to have any affiliation with
An abusive
abusive
company.
people
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
abusive company,
Because
or have a different agenda.
Jeff
And
Bezos is probably one of the most toxic people in the world.
yeah, exactly.
You know,
I
he's a
mean,
very wealthy individual. He has ties to the CIA. He has ties to other parts of the government. He owns a publication,
right. He owns
and
Washington Post
right,
for fuck's
and
sake. I
he and
mean,
he treats his workers like shit.
right.
And we've gone into that before.
Yeah. So I mean, the whole thing with Bezos too in mainstream, it's like, recently San Francisco Chronicle, SF Gate, they did an article that showed that Bezos didn't pay any taxes for 2017. And it's like, okay, let's take a look at this
And people were
article.
reacting to that headline,
Right.
and they were
So,
saying, "Oh my God,
yeah,
what an asshole!
right.
He's terrible. He's a
Yeah,
terrible
he didn't
person,
pay
right?" Okay, yeah, we
taxes.
know that.
He pays his employees like shit. Instead of actually giving them like a healthy environment to work in, he parks an emergency services van outside of the warehouses so that when they pass out from heat exhaustion, the emergency services van will take them to the hospital, and then the employee will then have their wages docked for what it
Payment,
cost
yeah,
to treat them.
yeah.
So you see how everything's a for profit
And
manipulation.
it's manipulating their
So
work.
basically these people are pretty much working for free.
Yeah.
If you think about it, they're total slaves, and that's the number one reason why he's rich. And then the number two reason why he's rich is what everyone else ignores, is that he has an agenda. It's all about tracking us. It's all about, having your Amazon footprint is all about just tracking you and marketing you and, seeing what you buy. It's nothing more than a further infringement of your Fourth Amendment right to privacy. So, it's unbelievable to me that people will get so hysterical and so angry
And
about his human rights abuses,
or
which
just the surface level shit.
right, which is what the mainstream media wants to trot out in front of you and dangle in front of you to distract you from the fact that we're talking about like a serious, global agenda, which is to again take away your right to privacy.
And
You
your
know.
right to be a human. It's
Mm-hmm.
taking away your creativity. It's taking away your autonomy. It's
Right.
taking away your ability to be autonomous. Or I said autonomous, but innovative and to contribute to society in a much richer way than what's actually taking place.
Right.
And that what's really going on, and what everybody or most everybody is ignoring, is the iceberg beneath the surface.
Mm-hmm.
What's being trotted out and what's being shown to you to distract you and get you angry and upset is just the tip of the iceberg.
Just the tip of it.
The
So
very thing
you're
that's
wasting all of your outrage and all of your very uh,
core
it's
being
it's
yeah,
your nature to want to right the wrongs in the world, but it's being exploited when you're
and
not
yep, and
focusing
manipulated.
on
Yep,
the entire picture.
exactly. Yeah,
So,
and that's classic, and that's what's going on with a lot of things in the world.
and the entire propaganda industrial complex is meant to call that outrage. It's meant to call your focus
Hmm.
and redirect it towards whatever they want it to be at the
Right.
moment.
It's sort of like in 1984 with the 2 minutes of hate.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
It's to
Totally like
distract
that.
you and keep you
It's like,
focused on the things that are easy to hate, but
hmm
really keeping you distracted from what's actually going on in the background.
right, totally. And I think that you know, there's so much going on as far as things like population control and the further infringement of our human rights and our human protections that um, it's a lot of information again coming at us from all direction.
Right.
This is the information age. This is
Well, and the
you know
vilifying of people who are actually trying to do the right thing, and this has been going on. I mean, let's look at the
right.
Black Panthers, for example.
Yeah.
The Black Panthers in the '60s. This is, I was a kid when they were active, and making a difference in Oakland, and actually, they were doing things like direct action and mutual aid. They were taking care of the community through programs and through
Right.
food,
Housing and
housing, and
yeah.
food for the neighborhoods and the people that were living in Oakland.
And they did it out of necessity. They had
Hmm.
no choice
Yeah,
because
because the black community was being
targeted
targeted
big time.
and
Yeah.
marginalized and kept apart from the society at large, but at the same time being kept poor,
Mhm.
right? So they did what they could
So
to
they
take care of their
operated
own.
right. So they operated outside of the system that oppresses them. They started systems, you know, that didn't have anything to do with government legislation or government regulation. They didn't count on food stamps. They didn't count on you know, housing vouchers and things like that.
Right.
They basically said, see, clearly, the system isn't working for us.
Now they also had a militant wing that took care of basically protection,
Hmm.
and you know and
Can you blame
protecting.
them?
No,
I mean,
I not at
God.
all. And a lot of it, half of it was posing, right? Half of it was posturing,
Right.
and what the media picked up on, and what
Was
the
the
FBI
posturing.
focused on,
Right.
was the posturing and the
Right.
militancy, right?
And turned something that was mostly just posturing into something real, which is what we see with Donald Trump. We see a lot of posturing. We see a lot of like, did you bring a battery? We see a lot of
No, I didn't.
we see a lot of like uh, you know, really inflammatory commentary, like, you know, in regards to wanting to be like China, where they have uh, continuous leadership. What's it called? Where there's no election.
Oh, right,
It's
yeah.
just
Yeah, well, there's a vanguard party, the one party and one party only.
one party and one party only. And Donald Trump is like, uh, yeah, that sounds about right. We should do that here too.
Where
And
there's the person who's elected
right,
and put into power is there for basically their
their
lifetime.
lifetime until they die.
Hmm.
And Donald Trump is out there saying, you know, that sounds about right. Well, the thing is we already have that. It's just that it's with a different face.
Right.
You know, we
We
already have the
we're
Vanguard Party. We already have, you know, one singular party, both Democrats and Republicans and even libertarians. They all have the same agenda. Now, what face you put in front of that agenda, and you put as the, you
as the
know,
face.
as the face of it, like for right now, it's Donald Trump. You know, a couple of years ago, it was Barack Obama, and before that, it was Bush, and before that, it was Clinton. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's the same agenda. It's the
Hmm.
same
They all work for the
singular.
corporations, and
They
they
all have
yeah,
the same agenda.
and they all come
So,
from the same group of people who started the country in the first place, and these were the landowners
right,
and the wealthy
right.
who basically were taking away power from the aristocracy. So it's the same people who have been running this country since the very beginning, and yet they use this romantic notion that it's for the people, by the people, and of the people, when
No,
really
it's not.
it's for the rich, by the rich, and of the rich.
It's never been that way. And
And
so it's like,
we've always been talked into and convinced that we're fighting for a cause that will help everybody. But really what it is it's helping the people who are in charge.
the people with all the money. So
Yeah.
when Donald Trump comes out there and says, "Yeah, I think we should be more like China and just install one person and then they lead for, you know, forever."
Right.
It's like, or
He's
they
he's
lead and
basically stating the
he's
obvious.
stating the obvious. It's like the most truthful thing he's actually said in the year and a half that he's been,
Yeah.
you know,
And he's not
the front man.
he's not a smart person. And he's really kind of a tool and a fool. And we don't have any,
This is a game to him.
yeah.
This is all nothing more than a game to
Yeah,
him.
and he's just the front man of this band called
Yeah.
the United States government.
The United Snakes of America.
The United Snakes of America.
Yeah, like seriously, you know, it's all none of it's real. It's just, yeah, and it's kind of amazing to me how many people realize that. They really do realize that. They really do realize that they have to literally fall off the system that oppresses them and go into, you know, direct action and mutual aid.
Yeah.
You know,
So Are we getting the high sign that we have a low battery? So we should
Yeah.
probably, and I forgot to bring a spare battery along with us. So we should
Right.
probably wrap it up.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. We've been doing this for a while,
Yeah, how many
so
minutes does that say? We've been on
I
for
don't know.
almost an hour now. So
That's a long time.
yeah, we've been a little
Sorry.
incoherent and a little coherent, and that's, I think,
No, we're
has to do
fine.
with the bloodies this morning. But that's
Yeah.
okay. We're just kind of relaxing and enjoying our Sunday afternoon. It's a beautiful day after a week of rain, and it's actually warmer today than it has been. We've been, it's been
Oh, the
cold
bells are
temperatures.
ringing.
The bells are ringing at, I guess, it's St. Mary's Cathedral. Yeah, it looks
Hmm.
like a Maytag washer, uh, but yeah, modernist architecture. But anyway, here we are in beautiful Alamo Square Park in the sunshine and talking to you, slightly drunk and smoking a cigar, and I think that that's the way it should be.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. There is no advice. The advice is to just, stop participating in a system that has never worked for you your entire life, and maybe start interacting on a local level
Get educated.
outside of
Hmm. And
legislation.
start reading about alternatives to this system that we call the United States.
Yeah.
Okay? There's other systems that are out there. Get yourself educated, read things.
Yeah,
Don't
totally.
just buy the bullshit that, these things that you've been told are horrible because they actually have something to say,
Yeah.
so don't believe the hype.
Yep.
All right? All right, I'm JP.
I'm Julie.
And this is the Book of Hours podcast, and we're running out of energy, but
Peace.
we will talk to you again soon. Thanks.
Ciao.
Bye bye. How do I end this thing?
You go with the exit the top.
There's an X. Okay.